Hello there, and welcome to our latest episode of Conversations with Marléne and Pascale. It's great to be back, and today we're going to be talking about detaching as a coping mechanism, something that I think pretty much all of us do at some points in life. Before we start, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Marléne Rose Shaw, therapist, coach, and self-help author. I specialise in relationships, both individuals and couples. I love helping people reconnect and find their closeness, and I love empowering people to get past the people pleasing and set better boundaries, communicate really well, and just have super duper great relationships. Over to you, Pascale.
Hi everyone, my name is Pascale Lane. I'm a therapeutic confidence and success coach, and I help female coaches to smash through the £10,000 a month barrier by being more confident, overcoming self-limiting beliefs, and really showing up for themselves and really embracing life in absolutely every way possible.
Fantastic. Gosh, it sounds so exciting.
I know, I just got a little heart flutter when I said it.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And actually, I think for both of us, me working with people, helping them with their relationships, whether that's with their partner or with family or friends, I think detaching is something that comes up. And I think for you too, detaching is a habitual pattern that we can use, isn't it? That will impact your coaches as well that you work with.
Absolutely.
So I guess we could start with what is detaching? What is detaching from your point of view, Pascale?
For me, detaching is, well, like you say, I mean, first of all, I think it's something that everyone does to some degree. And like we were saying beforehand, it's a strategy that I have, without realizing it, used, I think, throughout the majority of my life, to be honest with you. It's a coping strategy, first and foremost. Probably has a little bit of I think it has a bit of a negative connotation, but ultimately it's a coping strategy where one just cuts off the emotion. So there are varying degrees. There's detaching, and then there's dissociating, which would be a far more kind of extreme, varying degrees of extreme coping strategy. But basically we're talking about cutting off from the emotion and actually just kind of letting the logical brain kick in and kind of going into action, behavior, getting it done mode. If we were talking about dissociating, I would probably explain it a little bit differently, because that's a coping strategy that tends to be used more with victims of abuse. But I think in how we're talking about it now, detaching, as I see it, is essentially, I haven't got time for this. I haven't got time for the emotions. I can't cope with the practical moving forwards and the emotions at the same time. So I'm going to numb the emotions completely and just focus on what needs to get done. And I think that applies to, well, like I said, that applies to me. I think that applies to a lot of women. I think that applies to a lot of like women, particularly in business, just talking about my client group. But I think, I think a lot of couples do this. I think a lot of couples, and we've both, I don't work with couples anymore, you do, where it's just like, I have to get through to the next phase. I've just got to get through to the next bit. I can't deal with the emotions of this heightened situation or this heightened phase of life at the moment. So I'm just going to put my head down and just crack on and detach. And therein is the detachment, like plain and simple.
I would say that I personally have used detachment as a coping mechanism strategy throughout my life, and not so much now these days, but in, you know, back in the day, and it worked very well in one way and not so well in other ways. And I think it comes back to this inner child thing. I think it's the inner child that learns that, well, this, you know, if I don't, if, you know, it's kind of like, I always think of it as putting on blinkers, you know,
Mm.
put the blinkers on. What's the next step to survive? What's the next step? What's the next step? And I think if we learn that in childhood, that that's how to survive, it becomes you know, a pattern, and it can help us through some tough times. But then we grow up and we realize that, like all of these things that we learn in childhood, that it doesn't help us much, because it gets in the way of us having deep, authentic, real relationships, and can push people away, and can make us tired and stressed and burnt out and all of that stuff. I do find with couples, it's what's beautiful with couples is that when they are, when I can help them, and they're encouraged to actually speak from the heart, you know, because maybe they haven't been able to do that, but when they come into a couple session, they speak from the heart, and so they start to speak from their feelings. And I always say, you know, when you speak from your feelings, you can't help but connect with each other, and it's a lovely thing to see. It takes courage, though, I think. So to not detach takes courage, I think.
Well, I think it's about being like it's about being able to express your emotions. But I think before, you know, we're very good as therapists about telling people they need to like collectively saying you need to express yourself more. But I think actually fundamentally, a lot of people actually don't understand their emotions, because like you say, at such a young age you cut off for whatever reason, like not there's no blame intended here, but for whatever reason you learned to shut down those emotions and not express those emotions. And so you get to a point, and a lot of people go, and you know, I talk very openly about this. In the early days of my relationship with my husband, I was very, very shut down, and dating as we were at that time, a man with autism and ADHD, was I mean, I don't actually know. I don't actually know how we made it last, but I really, you know, part of it was being able to, and obviously I was a social worker at the time, so I was much more in tune with my emotions than I'm kind of giving myself credit for. But actually being able to understand those emotions, because those emotions, when they come in big and fat and heavy, are overwhelming. And so it's not just about, you know, talk to me, tell me what's going on in your head. It's like, first of all, I've got to figure out what all of this is. Like, I've got to actually just start pulling on kind of like threads of spaghetti in this great big bloody bucket, and actually work out actually what are the emotions that are going on for me. Because, you know, a lot of the time it can feel like, I was having this conversation with my daughter the other day, a lot of the time it can feel like anger, and people present with anger, like a lot. We were talking about something else completely, and fear and anger. But actually, once you start getting underneath that, like what's actually going on there, what's actually going on under the surface there, and then you can start to express it. You can't express something until you actually understand what's going on. But because detaching is so much easier, it's a lot easier, right? That's why it's kind of like a lot of people's go-to coping strategy, because it's much easier to just kind of put it in the fuck it bucket for now and deal with it later. But the problem is that they never deal with it later, because it all the time it's over there, it's numb. It's causing problems. We know it's causing problems as therapists. We know it's causing problems for them. But actually, how many couples have we worked with, or individuals have we worked with, where they're just like, you know, I had a fantastic case of this really recently, where it was proper dissociation. And she was like, oh, it's, you know, it's not a thing. It was in the past. Like, it's not a thing. And it's like, okay, but I think it's a lot more of a thing than you think it is. So, like, when you're ready to have a look and take the lid off, or just take a little peek, like, when it feels safe for you to do that, let's do that. And of course, so much came out.
Yeah, and I think as you say that, I think that people intellectualize as a way of detaching as well.
Oh yeah, that's a great point, Marlene.
I think that, you know, people will say, well, you know, this person was abusive to me in some way, but they can't help it because they had a difficult childhood, or it's because, you know, they lost their job, so they were angry, or it's because of this. And intellectually, that kind of makes sense, but it doesn't actually mean that it's okay. And it doesn't, you know, it's when people are able to get in touch with the emotions around something, that they're able to process it. They're able to say, actually, it wasn't okay. They're able to express their emotions around it. They can still intellectualize it. They can still understand why whatever it was happened, but it doesn't mean to say that it's, you know, they can sort of condone it and let it go and it's okay. They can let it go by processing their emotions. Because when we intellectualize and detach, we don't let it go. We just park it. And we almost take responsibility for other people's behavior as well, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Absolutely great point. Okay, so what would your advice be if this is, people are watching this nodding, going, okay, yeah, I can see that might resonate. I might do that. What would be your first, or what would be your advice? What would be the first thing that they would need to do?
I would imagine that an awful lot of people are nodding because we pretty much all do it at some point, don't we? So,
yeah.
My advice would be seek help. Seek a therapist who can be there with you while you take the courage to explore those emotions, because it can feel risky and scary. I mean, the way out of detaching is to get in touch with the emotions. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But it's scary. It can be really scary to just go and do on your own, or to go and confront somebody in your life that you know you have some need to have some conversation about something. It's good to do it with a professional who's trained to help you metaphorically hold your hand through it and guide you and give you courage and teach you the skills so that you can keep doing it for yourself and get better and better at it. And I would also say, take the courage to you know, understand that vulnerability is a powerful tool. There's nothing wrong with being vulnerable. Allow yourself to be vulnerable, to feel those vulnerable feelings. But maybe, as well as seeing a therapist or a coach or a counselor, find somebody in your life that you really trust, that you find it easy to talk with, and practice and say, you know, I'm just gonna talk about my feelings. I want to practice talking about my feelings. Can we do that? Can I do that with you? And practice those conversations with the easy people, the people you can trust, the people that you know have your back, and that they're going to help you with that. And maybe they are the people who also talk about their feelings, not in a overwhelming moany sense, but in a kind of assertive and established sense. People who kind of maybe have done the work themselves, so they get it and they know it's okay to express your feelings and to be vulnerable, and they're happy for you to share that with them. What would you
Yeah.
say?
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, I mean, I think all of that's absolutely spot on. I think the part about having, I think two things kind of stood out there for me. First of all, is that actually working with somebody neutral,
Mm.
I think is essential. Definitely try it out with your friends. To start with somebody that you feel safe with, but actually working with somebody completely neutral, I always say is essential, because we're trained
Mm.
to we're trained to kind of be in that space of neutrality. Our friends and loved ones, they've got a filter. They're
Mm.
seeing it through their own lens. They're seeing it through their own perspective, their own lived experiences, what they know about you, what they know about the context. And there's that neutrality is completely lost, and it's really, really, really essential, like genuinely essential to have that. But also, like if the feelings are so big that you have cut off from them in whatever way, shape, or form, there's big emotions going on there. And
Yeah.
I actually just don't think, in all honesty, one can do that by themselves.
No, no, you can't do that by
You
yourself.
you
It's
you
too much.
can't. Like there's only so much journaling that you can do.
Mm.
I mean, I did a journaling course, not a journaling course. I did a course that had a lot of journaling involved. Haven't really spoken about this very much, and I've spoken to you about it. And the stuff that came up through the journaling um, actually put me into a bit of a depression, to be honest with you. And I actually had to stop the course halfway through, because there was no support for me to be held, to be supported, to be cradled through that. So whilst you and I always promote journaling, and I always promote journaling because it's so helpful, I only ever give my clients journaling work to do because I see them every week,
Yeah, yeah,
and or at any point they need me, they've got my phone number and they can text me. And that for me is a crucial part of my work that I do in my coaching work, is having that ability that if you need me, if you want to text or voice note, you can. Because when we ask people to journal on big yucky stuff, like one needs to, that was one of the main things I learned in this thing. So I'm going off on a tangent, but like I'm just saying, like, you've detached from it or dissociated from it for very good reason. So you can't safely do that by yourself.
no, you can't. And this is what I'm saying, it's crucial that you find help from a therapist or a coach, or
Yeah.
uh, and the journaling or the talking to a very aware person, is an extra, but you must have that professional support in place,
Yeah.
because, as you say, people detach for a very good reason.
Yeah.
They're not going to suddenly say, "Oh, I think I'll just open everything up and then, life will be wonderful." It's, and if people have been detaching, they've been doing it for a long time.
Mm.
And there can be all sorts of things around that in their relationships, that they've been wearing a mask. People will react differently to them. There's
Well,
also,
I mean, masking is obviously a huge. It's a great
yeah,
point. Masking's a huge. I mean,
yeah,
it's the other side of the coin to it, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
I'm fine. Yay.
Yeah, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. No, you're not. Um, so yeah, I think anybody who is aware that you're detaching, and maybe it's impacting your life, and you just know there's a voice within you that says it's time to make some changes now. Get in touch with me if it's about your relationships, either with a spouse, a partner, or it's with your family or your friends. or get in touch with Pascale if it's about your business.
Or like relationship, or but yeah, I mean, like, if you're a coach, get in touch with me.
You're a coach, yeah.
But like, because it's all encompassing, because we know that when we work on one aspect of ourselves, then everything changes. But
all comes down to relationships, doesn't it, with yourself, everybody
everything.
else.
Well, I think with yourself, I mean, it all comes down to the relationship with yourself ultimately, doesn't it? But we get there. So links will be in the comments below, or drop us a DM. We both offer a free free call. Get in touch.
Okay, brilliant.
All right. Wonderful, Marlene.
Bye.
Always a pleasure. See you soon. Bye.